Have you ever wondered if your items are gone if you lose to a PvE round in TFT? Well, I certainly did. Speaking as a German player, I'm not a stranger to bad internet connections, which means I'm not only used to arriving late to my train station, but also to my TFT games. Though it doesn't even take bad internet to lose to a PvE round. Maybe you just got greedy with your preparation snacks, or your units randomly decided to focus on the wrong monsters. According to a statement Mortdog made on a stream, there is a catch-up mechanic in the game. If you lose to Krugs or Wolves, then the orbs will appear at a later time. If you end up losing to Aurelion or a late game PvE unit like Morgana or Urgot, then your items are gone forever. Okay, so I guess this means the case is closed. Well, as you know, I like to take a look for myself. And honestly, I'm not too sure the system is working properly. Let me show you what I found. Let's start with a very extreme scenario. In this test, I lost to the first PvE round, Krugs and Wolves. Afterwards, I placed a board that could win against Aurelion, but I only ended up receiving 2 components. Thanks to a glitch carousel with a double component, I ended up with a total of 7 components. The other player acted as a control group and he won every PvE round and ended up with a total of 13 components. Obviously, this could never happen in a real game, but it kinda proves my first point. There is a limit to this recovery mechanic. Next up, I tested a few games where I lost to a very specific PvE round. So for example in this game, I only lost to the stage 1 minions and won everything else. In another game, I only lost to Krugs or Wolves and played the rest normally. What I found in these tests was a mixed bag. Losing to the first PvE round didn't result in any bonus outcomes at Krugs, but it often resulted in more components at Wolves. It definitely was possible for the player who lost a PvE round to end up with the same amount of components as the control group, but more often than not, I ended up being down 1 component in the end. Maybe this ended up being intended, but I have to admit testing this is somewhat painful, and the result can definitely just be a case of a low data sample. But let me show you one game that made me believe that something isn't working right. If we take a look at this game, I won the beginning PvE round and ended up with the usual amount of 3 components. The stage 2 carousel was a double component again, and I also ended up with a portal giving me a Thieves' Gloves. Now it is my understanding that glitch carousels and portals are treated as bonus outcomes and should not be able to influence the amount of items you can receive in the end. If I'm wrong about this, feel free to call me out in the comments. I do not consider myself an expert on this particular topic. Going back to the game, I intentionally lost to Krugs, so before going into Wolves, I received a total of 5 components if we disregard the glitch carousel and the Thieves' Gloves portal. The Wolves gave me 2 more components, so at this point I should expect to receive a bunch of items from Aurelion, right? Well, it turns out Aurelion was also stingy in this round and only gave me 1 component in addition to the item anvil. This means I naturaled 10 components, something that shouldn't be possible. This does look quite suspicious if we compare it to this game, where I ended up receiving 5 components from Aurelion, which showcases that Aurelion is capable of dropping a large amount of orbs. And this topic is a bit hard to research, especially if it's not 100% clear what the expected outcome is supposed to be. So we don't really have anything to compare it against. Nevertheless, based on the information I have at the moment, this is my conclusion. If you lose to a PvE round, then it is both possible for you to lose components or to receive them at a later time. To me, it feels like the recovery mechanic can transfer items from one PvE round to another, but it also looks like it can fail, and in these cases, you will end up short. I do want to highlight that losing in the first PvE round can definitely put you at a massive disadvantage, because it looks like the recovery is happening at Wolves and not at Krugs. It doesn't look like you will ever end up receiving more orbs from Krugs, so you will be down 2 components for the entirety of stage 2 and stage 3. This definitely makes coming back from a game after disconnecting a lot more difficult. As a final note, I cannot stress this enough, this is all based on a low data sample and unclear mechanics, so there is a decent chance that I came to the wrong conclusion. But I do feel like Riot should look into this mechanic more and confirm whether or not everything here is working as intended. What do you guys think? Do you have any experience of completely low rolling your components when losing to a PvE round? Let me know in the comments. I hope you learned something and see you next time.